Hi, my name's Eric. I'll be reading you selections from the e-edition of today's Cape Cod Times. Today's date is Monday, May 13th of 2024. We'll start with the weather, as we always do. Today, across the Cape and Islands, partial sunshine expected, high of 62. Tonight, overcast with a low of 49 degrees. Tomorrow, Tuesday, clouds with breaks of sun throughout the day, high of 67, low of 55. On Wednesday, cloudy with a touch of rain, high of 65, low of 54. On Thursday, a morning shower possible, otherwise just cloudy throughout the day, high of 60, low of 49. And on Friday, times of clouds and sun, high of 63, low of 50. A very typical day for this week. There may be some scattered showers, but mainly times of clouds and sun throughout the week, with the temperatures in their mid-60s during the day and the low 50s at night. The sun will rise at 5:23 a.m. today. It will set at 7:52 p.m. We will have 14 hours, 29 minutes of daylight. The moonrise will happen at 10 a.m. It will set at 12:58 a.m. Heading to the front of the paper, where the news is kept and the lottery results. And we read these lottery results because somebody asked for them. If there's something you would like read to people who are blind or print disabled, you can email us at info@audiblelocalledger.org or call us at 508-539-2030, and we'll consider reading it. And if you miss any of the information that we share in our readings, you can always go to audiblelocalledger.org, and in the upper right corner is the Archived Readings tab. If you click on that, you'll find a week's worth of our newspaper readings, and our shopping guides are up there, and all of that is what you can catch up on, and it's free for people who are blind or print disabled at audiblelocalledger.org. Now, for the latest results in the lottery, we go to masslottery.com because the Cape Cod Times goes to press too early to be able to give us the latest results. So, for the numbers game of Sunday, May 12th, 2024, in the midday drawing, the results were 1, 2, 9, 4. Again, yesterday's numbers game results in the midday, 1, 2, 9, 4. In the evening drawing, yesterday, Sunday, May 12th, the numbers were 8, 9, 0, 6. Again, last night's numbers game evening drawing, 8, 9, 0, 6. Mass cash for Sunday, May 12th, 13, 18, 31, 33, and 34. The Lucky for Life results round out our lottery numbers for Sunday, May 12th, with 8, 14, 26, 29, and 47, with 15, the bonus number. Good luck to all who play. Remember us if you win. From the cover of today's Cape Cod Times, dated May 13th, the headline reads, "Charging Forward. Cape Cod Canal site gets okay to test tide-powered turbines to make energy," by Heather McCarran. Cape Codders and islanders know about harnessing ocean winds to create renewable energy. The region's become a pioneer with the nation's first large-scale offshore wind farm, Vineyard Wind. Now Cape Cod may be on the cusp of being a national trailblazer for another green technology, one that uses the power of the ocean itself, and by extension, the moon, to make electricity. Marine Renewable Energy Collaborative, a Marion nonprofit that promotes sustainable development of renewable energy in New England ocean waters, has secured an 8-year pilot license from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to test prototypes of turbines that harness tides to create energy. The testing will be done in the Cape Cod Canal at the Bourne Tidal Test Site just offshore on the west end of the waterway. Any energy that's produced will be transmitted into the New England power grid by way of nearby Eversource substations. A comment from Eversource officials was not immediately available on Friday. We're the only tidal test site to get an FERC license, which is not easy to get, said John Miller, executive director of the collaborative. The federal agency, which oversees the nation's hydroelectrical, wave, and tidal power resources, reviewed the proposal for 2 years before granting the license, he said. The Bourne test site was installed in 2017, and it has been providing a platform for testing standalone, small-scale tidal turbine prototypes and other marine-related technologies under a permit from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. But any power produced by the tidal devices had to be dispersed through heaters. The prototypes could be up to 10 feet in diameter, compared to the full-size devices, which are 30 to 40 feet wide. Just the concept of having to burn off the power, having heaters out there in the middle of summer, just doesn't make sense, Miller said. This license allows the turbines to generate renewable electricity directly to the grid. The prototype devices are not going to generate a tremendous amount of energy, just about 30 kilowatts, he said. The testing will also provide a good demonstration of the technology's usefulness, he said. Miller said the next step will be to run a power transmission line from the test platform to shore, which will then get strung overhead along the railroad tracks there. Open Cape Corporation, a nonprofit technology company that's headquartered in Barnstable, plans to replace old utility poles along the route. The collaborative will be able to use those for its power line, though that still requires approval from the State Department of Transportation. It's not a huge, high-power line, but it still gets electricity to the grid, Miller said. And that's important, too, because people building these turbines want to make money, and having a test site like this lets them show they can put electrons into the grid. With the federal license in hand, Miller said the collaborative can provide tidal turbine developers the chance to test designs to an extent they couldn't before. Devices will be tested for efficiency, generation capacity, durability, and any potential environmental effects. According to the collaborative, developing budding tidal turbine technology is very challenging and costly. University test tanks, the organization notes on its website, can only test small prototypes and components of less than 3 feet. Testing larger devices in the ocean requires extensive permitting that takes time and is costly, which has slowed the development of the technology. Even to do a demonstration, you're supposed to go through FERC. So you spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions, just to get a permit, Miller explained. What we've done is build a site that's pre-permitted. What this is all about is making it quicker and cheaper for people who have new technologies to get them tested. The collaborative was also just approved to participate in the U.S. Department of Energy TEAMER, T-E-A-M-E-R, or Testing Expertise and Access for Marine Energy Research program, through which they will pay us directly to test companies' turbines, he said. There are presently 3 turbine developers who've indicated they want to test prototypes on the Bourne platform with TEAMER financial support. Miller said tests take place over 30 days and they cost about $200,000. The flow of the tides is what makes tidal turbines work. Taking advantage of the canal's fast-moving waters, the Bourne site is a fixed platform, and there's a photo of it on the front page of today's Cape Cod Times. It's a fixed platform that allows the free flow of water around and under it, unlike barges and bulkheads that disrupt flows. The stand includes a lifting arm that gives easy access for tidal turbines, while the stability allows better accuracy from sensors. According to the collaborative, it's the only test site with these capabilities in the U.S. and perhaps the world. While the Cape Cod Canal will be key to development of tidal energy as a renewable resource in the future, a full-scale tidal power plant there is not part of the endgame. The canal is too restrictive for that, Miller said. But the Muskegat Channel between Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket could be a good candidate for tidal power production, he said. There are presently no full-scale tidal power plants in the U.S. It's been estimated tidal energy could provide 1/10 of the world's electricity needs, and Massachusetts water could generate the equivalent of a nuclear power plant, according to the collaborative. The organization further points out that tidal turbine energy has been shown to have minimal impact on the environment. Although Miller noted that offshore wind, especially in New England, has the potential for much greater power generation than tidal, it can't replace fossil fuel-powered energy resources alone. To meet climate change challenges, we need all the sources of renewable energy available, he said. Tidal energy is an important piece of the mix because it's reliable, predictable, and available along coasts where population densities are highest. Our next local headline from the Cape Cod Times, dated Monday, May 13th. He had to cheat to win. Cape Republicans weigh in on Flanagan errors, by Denise Coffey. Cape Cod Democrats have largely responded with silence after the State Office of Campaign and Political Finance cited State Representative Christopher Flanagan, a Democrat from Dennis, and his campaign committee for violations of the Massachusetts campaign finance law. Flanagan has directly paid $9,000 in fines, the office confirmed, among other penalties. Cape Cod Republicans haven't been as reserved. I take it as a compliment he had to cheat to win, said Tracy Post, Flanagan's Republican opponent in the 2022 state representative race. Flanagan should resign his position and withdraw from the upcoming race for the 2-year seat, David J. Sampson, president of the Cape Cod Republican Club, said. I don't believe the representative is in a position to effectively serve the constituents of his district, Sampson said. Flanagan won the 2022 race for the 1st Barnstable District. He received 12,401 votes to Post's 10,352 votes. The district includes the town of Brewster, the town of Dennis, and precincts 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8 of the town of Yarmouth, all of which are in Barnstable County. Currently, Flanagan is running unopposed for a second term, and the primary election is September 3rd. Oversight of the campaign is my responsibility, Flanagan said in an email to the Times. It's important for me to share with you how truly sorry I am that this occurred, and I have taken steps to ensure that it never happens again. State Senator Julian Cyr, Democrat from Truro, whose district includes Flanagan's constituents, didn't return 2 calls for comment. State Representative Sarah Peake, a Democrat from Provincetown, also did not return 2 calls from the Times for comment. Peake is the House's 2nd Assistant Majority Leader and the Dean of the Cape Cod delegation. She's announced she's not running for re-election. What were the findings? Well, the 6-page letter dated April 19th from Office of Campaign and Political Finance Director William Campbell laid out findings following an investigation into a campaign mailer entitled Conservatives for Dennis that supported Flanagan's run in 2022 for the 2-year office. The office received a complaint about the mailer, which started the investigation. Flanagan didn't respond for months to the state office's questions, and he finally responded when the state office said it would send the matter to the Attorney General's office for review, according to the letter. The mailer went out to Dennis residents prior to the November 2nd of 2022 election. The purported group Conservatives for Dennis highlighted Flanagan's service, honesty, and integrity, and read in part, "Vote the person, not the party." Attacks against Post were printed on the back of the mailer. The statements read, Post was unfit for office, and that she had cost Dennis taxpayers thousands in 2 lawsuits. The state office determined the mailer was a campaign committee expense, not a third-party expense as the campaign claimed. Had it been properly disclosed and reported, the public would have known Flanagan's campaign paid for it, according to the office. What happened in the 2022 race? Flanagan ran against Post and independent Abe Kasparian. Tim Whalen, a Republican from Brewster, had held the seat since 2015, but he didn't run for re-election. Flanagan touted his public service experience during the campaign. He worked for 2 U.S. senators from Massachusetts, John Kerry and William Moe Cohen. He was also on the Dennis Select Board during the pandemic. Coastal resiliency, economic development, housing, and education were some of the issues he wanted to focus on as a state representative, he said. During his campaign, he said that as an executive officer on the nonprofit Home Builders and Remodelers Association of Cape Cod, he understood the connections between the environment, housing, and the economy. After the investigation into the mailer, the state office turned to Flanagan's campaign finances. The Flanagan Campaign Committee's bank records revealed $10,580 in excess contributions for 2022 and 2023, according to the state office. One was a $10,000 check reported as a loan from Flanagan to the committee. The law only allows cashier's checks for $100 or less, Jason Tate, communications director with the Office of Political and Campaign Finance, wrote in an email. The $10,000 was deposited by cashier's check in excess of $9,900. As a result of errors, the committee has paid $6,000 in penalties to the Commonwealth, and Flanagan has paid $9,000, according to the office. Flanagan had to forgive $13,992 in outstanding loans the committee owed him. The committee also purged $10,580 by making a charitable contribution, according to the letter. The committee donated $10,580 to the nonprofit Family Table Collaborative in South Yarmouth, according to co-founder and director Jenny Wheeler. Tate said the donation to a nonprofit was part of the agreement the state office made with Flanagan. The Family Table Collaborative, founded in March of 2020, distributes prepared meals to families and seniors on Cape Cod. In total, the fines and penalties for Flanagan and his campaign committee totaled $39,572. Penalties for violations of the state law governing campaign expenditures and contributions can include civil and criminal penalties, disqualification from races, restitution, and public disclosure. What's Flanagan's response? In his statement, Flanagan said in part that as, quote, someone who serves you, I take to heart my role, my duties to the public, and owning up to my mistakes. The State Office of Campaign and Political Finances has issued fines and required a donation to a nonprofit, he said. During the state review, Flanagan said he accepted responsibility for the mistakes that led to this outcome. This mailer should never have happened, he wrote. In the spirit of good governance, he wrote, I agree with OCPF that the corrective measures they had me undergo to resolve the matter are in the best interest of the public. Cape Republican officials are weighing their options for the upcoming primary. Should at least 150 voters choose a write-in candidate in their primary election, that person could go on the ballot for the November 5th general election. When Post was asked if she might consider running as a write-in candidate for the seat, she said she was focused on the Yarmouth Select Board race. Post, Wheeler, and 3 other candidates are running for one open seat on the Yarmouth Select Board. Keeping it local, we'll move to the Cape and Islands section of today's Cape Cod Times, dated Monday, May 13th of 2024. Bourne election lacks candidates for Health Board Library Trustee, by Paul Gately. 2 separate positions, I believe. In Buzzards Bay, Bourne Town Clerk Barry Johnson faces no opponent in the annual town election May 21st, but is gravely concerned about 6 spots on the ballot with no candidates and the likelihood of numerous write-ins. The ballot does offer contested races, Select Board, and the Bourne Recreation Authority. Positions without candidates include Constable, 2 seats on the Board of Health, a library trustee slot, and a Main Street Community Center trustee post. A school board term also needs a candidate. He said vacancies will be decided by ballot write-ins. It's obvious, he said, write-ins will be needed, and that will make for a longer day at the polls. Contested races, meanwhile, involve a 4-way race for 2 select board seats and a similar setup for Bourne Recreation Authority terms. The ballot initially had 5 select board candidates, incumbent Mary Jane Mastrangelo seeking a 3rd term, former Bourne Public Works Director Sean Patterson, Boston-based paralegal Daniel Deegan, Planning Board member Gene Azarovitz, and John Jack McDonald, a former Historical Society president. On April 8th, Patterson formally withdrew from ballot consideration, citing job and time constraints. If Azarovitz were elected to the Select Board, that would create a Planning Board vacancy. Select Board member Jared McDonald did not seek a 3rd term. Mastrangelo, the former Finance Committee chair, said she's campaigning with political signs, conversations with village civic group members, and participation at a candidates' night. Newcomer Deegan is politically aligned with his uncle, former Public Works Director Patterson. McDonald, meanwhile, is best known for his historical preservation and anti-demolition efforts to save 2 Cape Cod information booths from the wrecking ball. Azarovitz is well known for her planning board work and designer selection committee work involving Main Street aesthetics. Recreation Authority directors Louis Gallo and Joseph Klusevzek seek re-election. Gallo is an authority veteran, Klusevsek, was recently appointed to the panel by the Select Board. The opponents are Robert Buckley III and Christopher McCarthy in second attempts to win authority seats. The authority is a state-chartered entity with one member appointed by the governor. Members administer operations on both sides of the canal, notably Scenic Park in Buzzards Bay and the Gallo Ice Arena at Bourne Village. The federal land involved is consigned to the Army Corps of Engineers. The authority in recent years has undertaken efforts to expand and modernize the rink entrance and lobby. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Precincts 1 and 3 cast ballots at the Main Street Community Center. Precinct 2 at the North Sagamore Fire Station. Precincts 4 and 7 at the Middle School off Waterhouse Road. And Precincts 5 and 6 at St. John's Parish Center in Pocasset. The ballot can be found on the Town of Bourne website. You just click on the Town Clerk Department or the main news bulletin. The other story in the Cape and Islands today, photo shoot, attention to detail, an article by Steve Heslip, who's the photographer for the Cape Cod Times. It's that time of year again. Even a long, cold month of April couldn't prevent the inevitable. Yes, it's time for the first lawn mowing of the season. If mowers had license plates, mine would have an antique plate. It's part of my inheritance, a 30-plus-year-old Toro self-propelled model, lovingly maintained for 25 of those years by my father. He was my mowing mentor. Despite a yard filled with precisely spaced shrubs and having to weave around them, mowing in straight lines was expected. That was the primary rule. But after the mower cooled down, there were more lessons to be learned. The top deck was swept off and the discharge chute was scraped free of any wet, matted down grass. Then the tank was filled, oil level checked. Job finally done. There were a lot of details to be learned for such a routine task. I'm not sure how old I was for that first outing with the lawnmower, but the yard care apprenticeship didn't end with high school graduation. Any visit to the homestead usually involved mowing, fertilizing, and a lengthy raking season in fall. Once all the leaves were gone, a ceremonial last mow to drain out most of the gas, followed by a capful of fuel stabilizer. Firing up the Toro for the first time last week, started on the third pull, I realized how that early attention to small details was the perfect training for any career, but especially photojournalism. Writer James McBride says, as a journalist, the details always tell the story. A good photo essay will include at least one detail image. This is often a close-up image taking the viewer's eye for a look at some small detail that helps tell the story. Looking for good detail shots is much like finding the right puzzle piece. You know it's there somewhere in the big pile of look-alike shapes, but only attention to small details helps locate it. Even when staying within the lines, crisscrossing the yard, my eye is looking for the details as the old four-cycle engine purrs along. You never know what might hop up. And keeping it local, we'll even head to sports. Kipperman has career moment for Nauset girls lacrosse team by Courtney Jacobs. Julia Kipperman scored 4 goals, which included her 100th career goal, and dished out 7 assists for the Nauset, which is 8-6, girls lacrosse team in a 20-1 win over Mashpee, which is 4-8, on Saturday. Sienna Reeves with 5 goals, Allie Higgins with 4 goals, Coral Punch with 3 goals, Zoe Labdin with 2 goals contributed on offense, while Cleo Donovan and Logan Clifford each scored their first varsity goals for Nauset. Sophia Boucher and Nora Swanson split time in goal, and Ciara Hendricks scored the lone goal for Mashpee. In other high school action in girls lacrosse, it was Nantucket 17, North Reading 4, Barnstable 20, Dennis Yarmouth 3. In boys lacrosse, it was Nauset 21, Hanover 11, Nantucket 16, Archbishop Williams 2, Falmouth 14, Whitman Hanson 2, and Weston 18, Martha's Vineyard 11. In girls tennis, it was Nantucket 3, Martha's Vineyard 2. In softball, Atlantis Charter 16, Cape Tech 4, then Cape Tech 6, Atlantis Charter 5. They split a doubleheader. It was New Bedford 8 and Falmouth 0. In baseball, Cape Tech 11, Atlanta's Charter 1. Nantucket 1, O'Brien 0. In girls track and field, Barnstable, the distance medley relay team, placed first with a time of 13:35.76. In boys track and field, Barnstable William Fajardo Doss had a personal record time of 22:91 in the 200-meter, while Kevin DeFutis had a personal record time of 10:31.44 in the 2-mile. We will finish off our half-hour reading of the Cape Cod Times today with a different kind of local news, which is the obituaries. We start with a veteran, Robert Bob Francis Xavier Hart, who passed on May 8th at the age of 85. Bob was a proud son of Lowell, where he attended St. Patrick's School and Keith Academy. He was a Boston College Triple Eagle, graduating in 1960 and later receiving Masters in Social Work and Theology. He was a passionate member of the BC community his entire life, receiving a BC Lifetime Achievement Award for public service in 2005 and starting an alumni service trip to Mustard Seed in Kingston, Jamaica in 2008. Visitation will take place on Tuesday, May 14th, from 4 to 7 p.m. at Chapman Funerals and Cremations at 584 West Falmouth Highway, West Falmouth, Mass. A funeral mass will be held this Wednesday, May 15th at 11 a.m. at St. Elizabeth Seton Church, 481 Quaker Road in North Falmouth, with burial to follow at the North Falmouth Cemetery. In lieu of flowers, donations to Legacy Fund at Lowell Catholic or Jamaica Mustard Seed BC alumni trip would be appreciated. The next obituary is of Christopher R. Picoche of Cotuit, who passed on April 19th. Chris was born on Nantucket on July 18, 1958. As a young boy, the family moved back to New Bedford, where his father was a home-ported as a pilot for the Steamship Authority. After his father's passing, his mother moved the family back to Nantucket, where Chris made many lifelong friends. Chris married Susan Griffin of Fairhaven in 2000 and moved to Cotuit and commuted to Nantucket for work. Chris and Sue looked forward to spending time each winter in St. Martin. A memorial service in celebration of Chris's life will be held on June 1st at 11 a.m. at the Mosswood Cemetery in Cotuit, where he is interred besides his beloved Susan. A reception following the service will be held at Columbo's on Main Street in Hyannis. The next obituary in the Cape Cod Times of May 13th is of Sarah Brown Murphy of Cotuit, who at the age of 59 passed on May 9th, surrounded by family. Sarah was born October 6, 1964 in Boston. A 1982 graduate of Brockton High School, she went on to graduate from Williams College in 1986 with degrees in English and history. She received her master's in business from Columbia University Business School in 1997. Visiting hours will be held at Chapman Funeral and Cremations, the John Lawrence Chapel at 3778 Falmouth Road. That's Route 28 in Marston's Mills this Thursday, May 16th from 5 to 7 p.m. A funeral service on Friday, May 17th at 11 a.m. will be held in the funeral home. In lieu of flowers, the family requests donations be made to the Pat Roach Hospice Home, care of NVNA and Hospice Charitable Fund, 120 Longwater Drive in Norwell, an organization Sarah felt strongly about and one that helped comfort her in her final days. And the final obituary is of Janet M. Dragunas of Hyannis, who at the age of 77 passed on May 9th. Loving wife of the late Victor Dragunas, who died in 2018. She was born in Barnstable. Janet worked for many years as a receptionist at Dr. Finney's office in Hyannis until her retirement. She will be greatly missed. Services and the burial will be private. And that concludes the obituaries, death notices, and memorials that are listed in the Cape Cod Times of Monday, May 13th of 2024. We especially thank the veterans who served and sacrificed for our country. And with that, we've come to the end of our reading of the local news that was included in the Cape Cod Times for May 13th of 2024. This is your reader, Eric, saying be well, be safe, look after each other. Remember our vets. Bye for now.